Council meeting of June 15, 2020 has come to order. May we please stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance? Supervisor Espinoza, would you lead us to the Pledge of Allegiance? Please remain standing for a moment of silence for our first responders and military members. Please be seated. May I have a roll call, please?
Present. Councilmember Aguilar?
Present.
Councilmember King?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Garcia?
Present.
Mayor Summer?
Present.
For the record, council members, Mayor Pro Tem and Mayor are in attendance.
Thank you. And before we proceed, are there any staff members calling in? Once again, any staff members calling in? Seeing nothing, closed announcement. There's no repeatable action. Direction was given to staff. Changes to the agenda, council, anybody? Here? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Some clarity on the consent agenda, item number 6.
Okay.
And of both 7 and 8.
7 and 8 are regular discussion.
Okay.
What we do is when we go to consent agenda, before we go to the single item for discussion and decisions. Okay?
Yes.
Any other changes, council? Mr. Ramirez? If not, then we'll go on to Supervisor Espinoza. No.
I got it. Can you hear me? Well, good evening, council, public. Today we had a board meeting in the morning at the county, a regular meeting, and then at 1:30 we had our proposed budget for 2020-2021, and the budget was approved for $684 million total, including what was sent from the state. But of that, $139.6 million is the net county cost, which together with fines and everything that the county accumulates and spend on employees and with the county part. I have a copy right here. I'm just going to pass it. I'll leave it with the city because you guys can look at it and see what the budget holds for the following year. We went ahead and froze all the positions that were not filled, which were 77 positions. But the board had the hard decision to lay off 8 people. Supervisor Lohr and myself voted no to the layoffs. We have our different opinions. So it went, past 3-2. So the layoffs will occur. I had questions regarding if they were notified in advance, and the CEO said that they had notified the employees about the potential layoffs. Of course, they don't happen until the board approves them, and then so that's going to happen, and so that's unfortunate. But I think that the budget, the adopted budget will come back and adopt the full budget, the proposed budget in September. So my thinking was that keep those employees at least for a month to 3 months, so they could get try to get a job. Right now with the pandemic is very probably more impossible for some of the employees to attain a different position. So, but we're also the county's going to try to, if some positions around the county are vacated by people moving out or retiring, so they're going to try to fill those positions with the employees that were laid off. So they got 18 months that will be put in front of the line for the general public to try to get one of those positions in the county. That's very unfortunate, and I just thought we could have done a little bit more. It's always hard, when I was mayor here, we had to lay off a lot more people. So with that, I also too, we always try to do more, and maybe 5%, 10% a reduction in fees to some of the employees instead of laying off people. So I know that's always up to the unions to negotiate with the council decision, but finally by the council. So it's up to but we see as the next year or 2 years is going to be hard on the economy and hard on the cities, and so there might be more layoffs in the future too as well. So, but I had like I said, my opinion, and they still happen. So, other than that, that's all I have right now. This meeting. In case there's any other questions, I'll be glad to answer by council or the public.
Council, any questions, Supervisor Espinoza? Public, any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Staff announcements and reports. We'll start out with Chief. Police Department.
Can you hear me now? Evening, Mayor, Council, members of the public. I know a lot of things have been going on, not really our community, but in the county in general, as well as all throughout California and all throughout the United States. So I kind of wanted to touch on that. I wanted to go over our department's use of force policy, what we do to ensure that our officers adhere to it, which we do a lot. And I also, I've been asked what my stance was on actually the death of Mr. Floyd. And the bottom line is I don't condone that. I don't tolerate that within our department. We don't use any type of tactics like that. And we never will. I have faith in the men and women at the Livingston Police Department that nothing like that would ever happen here to our citizens. I would hope that they would always treat them with respect and continue to do that as long as I'm here. And that's what I'm going to strive for. But what I want to talk about, and then I want to have just a little story real quick. I don't want to take a lot of time for this. We have a pretty heavy agenda, but the things that we do, we have a policy through Lexapol, which basically anybody can go online and actually look it up. There's Lexapol. Yeah. You can actually go online on the city website under the police department and actually see every one of our policies. We have nothing to hide on the way we do things, what we have to adhere to. I mean, from use of force to disciplinary policies to take-home rights, city cars, everything, anything you can think of. And when you actually see how intensive that policy is, It literally covers almost anything you can think of at the police department. But one of the things that we do, and I've done since we've actually gone to this system, which is web-based, is that, and what I want to touch on is use of force, is that our officers have to acknowledge and read our policy, which is they actually each have a user sign on. They have to read it, acknowledge it, and make sure. Supervisors have to go over it with them, the critical policies. Also, during our evaluation period, we double down on it. We actually, at the end of the evaluation, when the sergeant gets with the officer, they go over that policy with them again and make sure that they understand. We also within the system have what's called DTB, daily training bulletins, which actually gives web-based scenarios on all of the policies, so the officers have a better understanding as to why they are, and how they're supposed to implement them. And as of this last couple of years, through POST, which is Peace Officer Standards and Training, every 2 years we have to actually go through perishable skills, which is a 8-hour defensive tactics class, which goes over use of force, and a defensive driving course every 2 years, and that which we are caught up on and good till 2021. In 2019, the officers were given a 4-hour course of de-escalation, which basically dealing with irate people and how to defuse the situation. Each officer had to go and actually talk to which was a thing put up on a screen, and the moderator, who was actually the instructor, put up different scenarios which, based on how the officer reacted, was based on how they actually changed it within the system, and whether they escalated it, the moderator. The officer had to do everything that they were taught through our policy and what they've learned, not only from the academy, but through our training, to make every escalate that situation. In 2018, we had a force simulator come in, which is actually a big, it looks like an actual tractor trailer, where the officers actually have to go in. They're outfitted with a gun, mace, baton, taser, everything that they have on their belt. And again, it's the same type of situation, but now it's more interactive. They actually have somebody come at them. The moderator and instructor actually sends a person after them, and everything's different. So not one same thing. They're all different. One thing is the same, and they have to react. Depending on how they react, they will send back a report to us to see whether or not they need further training, but every one of the officers had passed it with no problem. Also, they're required to go to the POST portal. Again, it's Peace Officer Standards and Training. It's a portal where they actually can see movies that actually train them on different scenarios. It goes from domestic violence to use of force, and one that I just saw today that actually I'm going to have them start watching and they actually get post credit for is bias and racial profile. Basically shows them how not to do that and what the proper thing is to do, and that's something that they're going to be doing as well. It's going to be a 4-hour block. We do range 4 times a year, where they go over use of force and what they can and can't do. The range masters do this. They go over kind of like shoot, don't shoot scenarios, so the officers know. I think one of the biggest things here, and that's what I try to reiterate to the officers, is because, and thank God it's a slow town. We don't have a lot of things going on. And one of the things that I don't want, and one of the things that we try to keep in their minds fresh, is complacency, that they don't get complacent. because we don't want them to actually go out and all of a sudden they're not trained in anything. Months go by, something happens, we overreact. We don't want that. So we try to keep that instilled in them 24/7 by one type of thing that they're constantly dealing with. So it's fresh in their mind. They know that should that situation come, they do the right thing, and they don't do wrong. And then last but not least, and actually I can't take credit for this, Sergeant Fong brought this to my attention. Actually, it's something that now that I really want to do is put on a 4-hour class on like a citizen academy. I really want people to see what we do. I really want them to see the things that we do and the things that I've talked to you about. I can't do them all, but I like to see people actually interact and see those things so they can see it firsthand what we have to deal with. Not on a continual basis, but we have to deal with it from time to time. So I want that. He doesn't know yet, and I hope he doesn't listen because he's going to know now. But I want to put this on probably within the next month or so I can start seeing if people are interested, so I can actually start reaching out and I can get them a little bit more in tune with the things that we do. That's really all I have other than the one thing. Use of force, basically, no situation. I'm going to kind of give you a story that happened to me probably, I think it was probably 1984 or 1985. I just can't remember when. It was so long ago. But I got a call over at the Olive Tree Apartments. And again, this kind of goes to actually every situation is different. But I dealt with an individual there. Me and another officer had responded. And this individual came at us with a knife. It was a domestic violence call. He ended up getting arrested for domestic violence because he beat up his wife. But I drew down and I was about ready to shoot him. And the only reason why I did it was because one of the officers jumped in front of me. And that was the reason why I didn't. As soon as the guy saw what I did, he immediately dropped the knife and nothing happened. A month later goes by, the same individual pulls I think it was a piece of wood on a deputy and came at him and he was shot and killed. So that kind of, I kind of say that because sometimes things happen and I know some people look at, well, they could have did this, they could have did that. Every scenario is different and the way that we think is different. It depends on the situation at hand and what goes on. And that's what I kind of want to get out to the people, that you never know what's going to happen. And that's what we try to reiterate and train the officers, that they're just prepared, they act and do the right thing. And that's all I want, is to make sure that these officers do. But again, like I say, is that I have faith in the men and women of the Livingston Police Department. I think they're going to do the right thing. I know that a lot of people at times will not agree with some of the things that I do. But again, that's where, and I always will say it every time I come up here, is I want people, when they see things on what we're doing or why we're doing it, please come up and ask. You have to. I talked to the new reverend at the Lutheran Church today, and she asked me one of the biggest things that I felt was a big problem. No, not problem, was what I saw that could be better done. And I said, communication between the police department and citizens. And hopefully between me and her and other people, we can make that happen. But that's what I want. I want people to inundate me with calls. I want them to tell me if one of my officers is doing something wrong or they suspect doing wrong, because I'm never going to know. I'm not on the street. I sit behind a desk and I do administrative work. I rely on the sergeant. Sometimes they're not there. So I want the citizens here to call me and let me know what's going on out there. Because not only do my supervisor and my officers, but they do as well. They live, talk, and speak up, whether it's negative. I don't mind negative. I don't. I learn from negative. And if I don't, then I'm being ignorant to the fact of what you're telling me. And I will never do that. Never. So please, out there, to anybody who's listening, to the citizens out there, please let me know if there's something we can do better. do it, tell me, let me know, and I'm more than happy to work with you and try to do the best we can to make it a better, more safer place for everyone here to live. If anybody has any questions regarding anything, please ask.
Any questions?
Sir, yeah, this is Raul Garcia. I just have a question.
Somebody else? Mr. Tim, you have a question for Captain?
Yes, I was just saying, what
you.
phone number can the citizens call to get a hold of you?
One number they can call you.
They can call my direct line at 394-8041, and I'm there every day except for Saturdays and Sundays, obviously. But I get the messages that they leave on my phone. It goes right to my phone, so feel free to give me a 5-5 line. You don't have to go through dispatch. They can go call me directly, or they can actually email me at csoria@livingstonpd.org.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other question? No.
Yes, I got one for Chief Soria. This is Gandhi.
Go ahead, Councilman King.
Yes, I've noticed like supervisor said in the county they're freezing a lot of positions. In the department, how are we up? Are we up to staff? Because I know a lot of officers that quit. I don't think we've replaced anybody. So how are we to, like, the size of the city? Are we up to staff?
I believe right now we're down 2 positions. We're at 16.
Are we-
should be at 8.
With the 16,
That's
are we
the
also
chief
including the
and a
school,
patrolman.
the SROs in there and the gang unit? Are those included in the 16?
I'm sorry, what was that again?
I say, are the SROs and the gang unit officer included in those 16 police officers?
The SROs, no.
Or they're separate? So we have 16 officers on the street plus SROs?
Yeah, so there's actually 18
Okay.
with the SROs.
Because I noticed the last time we got when we did the surveys with the neighboring cities, I mean, it seems like we had 1 captain, 2 lieutenants, sergeants, 3 detectives. Seems like we have less employees now.
Well, I think I want to say when I was the interim chief, when I took it over in 2010, we're at 20. Yes, we had a chief,
now
2
with the-
lieutenants. Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So with the population is growing, we're at 16 now.
Yes.
So can you find out for me if we're up to staff and see how many positions have been frozen that we need to open up?
Yes, I can.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Council, any questions? For the questions of the chief? Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Chief. Recreation? Anyone?
We're unable to hear her.
I'm sorry, repeat that?
It's hard to hear.
It's hard to hear you.
I wanted to make sure that you know our department's going strong in spite of COVID. And so I'm going to just show you what we've got coming up and how you guys can be involved. So the baseball and softball program was canceled, and we did refund our participants money. A lot of people sad, but it had to be. We did have our raffle last Friday, and thanks to Chief Soria and Tony, Emmy Ramirez, one of our parents, won the $1,000 raffle. So I just wanted to let you know and feel confident that what the department is doing and how we're dealing with social distancing is of our citizens. So we are limiting our groups to 10 per team for our sports. Our classes, if room is available that we can social distance, we would have a maximum of 25 participants in our classrooms. Participants and the staff will be screened upon arrival, and of course we know the temperature, what it has to be, and if they show or are exhibiting signs of shortness of breath, cough, or a fever, then we're not letting them stay that day in the program. Social distancing is suggested to the players and the parents and the observers, and we ask that when they're not in active participation. In other words, or where social distancing can't be maintained. We do want to remind our residents that to please cover their cough or their sneeze with their elbow, wash their hands frequently with soap and water, and we will be supplying hand sanitizer for the players before and after our activities. We are putting a hold on no homemade snacks. Packaged snacks should be wiped down prior to their distribution. Meal deals from the snack bar we encourage because the kids just go straight there and it's not touched multiple times. Sharing of any equipment or water bottles is not recommended. Restrooms will be cleaned as usual at the beginning of the day, and they will be sanitized with spray every 2 hours while we're using them. Parents are asked to social distance themselves. Parents are also suggested to bring hand sanitizers and wipes. Bleachers or seating will not be provided, so we do ask that the parents and participants bring their own lawn chairs. All persons entering the facility or park, we will have a sign that they need to enter and play at their own risk. All items listed are heavily suggested. However, due to staff limitations, we cannot police what they do or don't do. The soccer registrations, again, we're going to be mindful of small teams, social distancing, etc. Our registration deadline is July the 11th. We now take credit cards. Thank you, Vanessa. And so people can drop off their registration forms, and we can call them
At the tone,
to
please
get their
record your
credit card
message.
number.
When you've finished
if they
recording,
cannot
you
give
may
us
hang
the
up
check
or
or money order. And our forms are available online and in front of City Hall in the little file box. Our Phantom Fireworks Company is offering a fireworks sampler as we normally do downtown at the farmers market. But this year, in light of the social distancing and the safety of our residents, we'll be putting the little fireworks off at second base, and people will be able to bring their lawn chairs and spread out all the way around the outfield at Alvarez, and then social distancing in the bleachers. It's going to be a great time. Our Merced volunteer corps is going to help us, and they're going to sell hot dogs and drinks, and we'll have a bike raffle, and all that money benefits the spay and neuter for Livingston. These are just some of the new programs that we have coming up. Youth Cheer, Ballet Folklorico, Bhangra Dance Steps for Kids, our karate starting back up. We are going to have a paint night that will be taught by our very own Joel Aguilar. And we also are going to have a kickball league for adults. This is all either new or returning, and it's coming in July. So one of the things that we came up with that we thought would really help build community during this time is to have a sidewalk chalk art contest. And this is being presented by the Livingston Parks Recreation and Arts Commission. So there's no size limit. Our theme is love one another. They're going to create a chalk masterpiece in their driveway or on their sidewalk. They will submit a digital photo of the finished masterpiece along with a description as to why their masterpiece has inspired us to love one another. So the entry deadline is August 8th. They can email it to their pictures and their little description to recreation@livingstoncity.com. And then on August 17th, all of our entries are going to be placed on Facebook in a special album on the rec page. All the community is invited to vote from the 17th through August 23rd on which one they feel is the best, and the winner will be announced. And we have a prize basket of art supplies and Starbucks gift cards for the winner. I don't know how many of you have gotten to walk across the street and see our roses in bloom, but these are actual pictures I took yesterday of some of the blooms out there. It's really gorgeous, and we really need help in weeding. If anybody has a few hours that they would like to come and help us get the Bermuda grass under control, it would be really appreciated. Recreation commissioners, if you haven't seen them, these are all of them here, and they have such an amazing commitment to Livingston. You know, they're great people with a great vision, and I really invite the community to come to our rec meetings to give their input. Our next one is June 25th at 6 o'clock. So here are some things that are going to be coming to you from the Rec Commission soon. And it will be our Livingston Park and Recreation fee policy, some of the issues that we're faced with our facilities, with fees, and how we can cover costs of our program. These will be on the next Recreation Commission agenda. They are putting a proposal together to bring to the council. That's it. Any questions?
Council, any questions?
Yes, I have a few questions for Jackie regarding this.
Okay, hold on.
Do you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, regarding your schedule, I have a question about the baseball camp. Is that something that the city is putting together? Is it through the high school or just coach?
The city is putting together, but we're taking a list to see how many people are interested. So people have been calling in and saying, you know, if they're interested so that we can get time, date, all of that good stuff.
Another question. Do you know what the 4th of July committee is going to be doing in regards? Do you have any updates, or have we had any conversations with them?
I do believe that the city manager will be updating us on that.
I received a request or a comment from one of our residents here in Livingston. I think they've seen a post in regards to the city of Atwater putting like a parade and a competition, decoration competition for the 4th of July. Maybe that's something we could do if we're going to do fireworks. Maybe do some kind of community event where we could still celebrate, put them together. Just a thought.
Councilmember Aguilar, I actually received a press release that was communicated to me by the July committee. And so because of a lot of the challenges associated this year with COVID and the actual garnering of funds, what I read in the press release was that they were going to start looking at organizing something for next year, so they would promote the 4th of July, as we know, for this year. So I'll definitely convey the message over with regards to trying to do something a little different than not necessarily fireworks.
Councilmember Kang, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question for Jackie. Okay, with all these sports, are we having the kids and they're signing some kind of waivers just in case they do get COVID-19, the city's not responsible for anything?
Yes, absolutely. It's on their registration form.
And the second thing is, I don't know if our neighboring cities are, how their rec is going on. Is there any way you could start checking for school ID and only try to register people from Livingston, not neighboring towns?
That is something that we're discussing actually with the Rec Commission at our next meeting. And that would just be resident and non-resident, not necessarily us checking, but going, a process on how we can deal with that.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure each student has some kind of school ID. So long as they show that, or show their report card from Livingston. Because I could imagine if some kid wants to play soccer or baseball, and Turlock's not offering, Atwater isn't offering it, I'm pretty sure they're going to come to Livingston.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the issues that we're dealing with now, so we are working on a solution, and we will be bringing whatever recommendation we have to the council for discussion and, for putting in place a policy.
So our current policy is we take anybody, right?
Correct. As long as space permits.
Anything else, Councilman Kane?
No, that'd be it.
Okay, thank you. Council, is there further questions?
Sorry. I just have a comment. Again, earlier you did say that you refunded our baseball and softball monies. I would like to donate that back to you because that is meant for your program so that I can help with some of the costs that are supposed to be into the program, whether we had one or not. Again, I support the Rec Commission, the Rec and Art Commission, and I want to do what I'm able. And since I already wrote you out the check, I want you to be able to use those funds to go to whatever program that'll help the ones that you are promoting, so that we can still thrive in those areas for our community and for our youth. And also, I know that is the 100th committee under the Rex Commission, or is it? It's actually under the department, but our Rec Commissioners and our liaison are active part in it. Okay. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be on your discussion for the next Rec Commission meeting as to when we're going to revisit those items again when we had the kickoff. But I do know that when I sat with my group, that we were coming up with some ideas on how to raise funds, and the 100th is just right around the corner here. And so what I've been doing, I know that in our group we had suggested off of your list is collecting pennies, and I know that doesn't seem much, but it's already I've got a nice little piggy bank going for this effort. So I just want to present this to my fellow council members that if we can challenge one another, have a penny war against each other, who can raise the most money out of the 5 of us, and including whoever else on the city staff wants to participate, so that we can be a part of the city celebration. Again, get as many people as you can to save their pennies and see what we can come up with. And because I've already started mine, you guys are behind. So if that sounds like something, and I'm sure that we would want a part in that to help out our celebration for our city. So I'm with you on that one. Thank you. So can I put that on Facebook? Penny challenge? Exactly. Well, that's right here. This challenge is right here among us, because they're going to have to go out to the public and get their own people. So it would be against us here or any other staff member from the city that want to participate to see which person under the direction of the city who's elected or hired or whatever will participate, because we're going to need those people, coming to one of us, or we're going to have to go recruit from them, their piggy bank.
Hopefully we'll be able to get our meetings rolling again on our Centennial Committee. A lot of our seniors are involved, so we want to make sure that we do things just the right way so we can get.
Okay, Councilman, any other questions? Thank you. Okay. Fire Department, any updates?
Fire Department has no reports for today.
Okay. Finance, Vanessa?
Finance Department, no items to report today.
Okay, I just wanted to state publicly how sorry we are to hear about your father passing. You have our sincerest wishes from the city, okay? Okay, legal?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Okay, city clerk, anything to report? He's waving, no? Okay. Councilmember, I'm sorry, I'm going too far. I meant to say Anthony before I go cancel. I didn't see you, Anthony. I didn't see Anthony.
Good evening, Council, members of the public. I do not have a staff report this evening, presentation, but I did want to take this opportunity to advise Council and the members of the public that there will be a closure at our Main Street Railroad crossing, June 20th and the 21st, which is this Saturday and Sunday. Notification has been sent out to impacted businesses, along with the contact information.
Thank you. Sorry, but I didn't see you. Any council, any questions for Public Works? Thank you, sir. City Manager, announcements and reports?
Yes, Honorable Mayor, Council, and Public, got a few things to share with you all. First of all, I just wanted to let everybody know that we are looking at opening up the lobby at City Hall starting next week on Monday. We actually, we're going to put some protocols in place for that. One of the major protocols is that we actually had a glass installed so that we were able to interact with the public. And there's actually a slot down below that you can open and close, and people can communicate back and forth because there's going to be a microphone so that staff can hear the public can hear staff. And then we're going to make sure to put on the floor, some X's of, the social distancing requirement, and then going all the way out, we'll put some signage that face masks will be required to come in. And so we're going to kind of have like a soft opening where we'll be operating open to the public from 8 to 12 noon, and then a little over time we'll open it up the full day, but we want to do a soft opening to kind of see how everything is working out. But again, for all of you out there, the City Hall is open for business. It's just not currently open for public access, but we would like to start public access next week, Monday, starting at 8 o'clock to 12 noon.
Mr. Mayor, before the next item, if City Hall is open, does that mean that our late payment for the water services, utility services, would reapply again?
Very good question, Mayor. Given the financial circumstances that everybody finds themselves right now, we talked it over with staff, and because we're going to have to revisit the utility stakeholders' rates in August, right before that same meeting, during that same discussion period, is when we want to start to look at whether we continue the late fees or no late fees. But so to answer your question, between now, the first meeting in August, no late fees, no penalties.
Continue.
The other item is, there is a item on the agenda, which is a continuing resolution, so that we can continue to operate. We're not gonna make the July 1st adoption of our budget for fiscal year 2021. So what we're planning on doing, we're gonna continue to work with Vanessa and staff, and we're gonna have some workshops, give an opportunity for the public and the council to ask a lot of questions and get them educated on the actual budget itself. And with the continuous resolution, we'll be able to continue to operate with last year's budget and move forward. The other thing that I was going to share with council as well is that we did get bids. Actually, we got one bid for a special firm that can look at the audio and visual of this space that we're currently in, so that we can move away from what we're currently using. We have a combination of digital and analog in here, and then the acoustics and the speakers, and this will basically allow us to be okay for at least the next 10 years and have all of the bells and whistles to be able to interact with people out there, whether they're video calling in or conference calling in, and everybody being able to hear each other and stuff like that. We identified some funds under the community facilities section, and so it's a little below $60,000. It's a big chunk, but again, council and public, everybody, I think we need to make that investment so that we don't have so we can be able to have the public have access to us and vice versa. So that'll be coming before you and shortly here, so we can get that done. And then lastly, there's an update with regards to several other businesses here in town. One of them in particular, next to the subway, that you'll notice that there's been some empty office space in that neck of the woods. So there's going to be a cleaning firm that's going to operate out of there, and then we're also looking at some parcels in that neck of the woods. We're trying to see if we can facilitate Pollo Loco to actually come into town. So those are ongoing discussions, nothing confirmed yet, but we're continuing to do a lot of economic development activities. So that's all that I have for now. Unless you have any questions, Council. Thank you very much.
Council, any questions for Mr. Ramirez? Turn your mic, please. Go ahead. I
just want to know where we are with helping, I believe her name is Patricia, with our 2020 census.
So there's been a communication with Patricia in trying to get the word out about the census. There's also been a local resident that wanted to actually do some creative ideas to get the census word out, get people to participate. I know Mr. Jose Moran has done the bingo, has given away a lot of that we were able to conserve. And so this is an ongoing, so we want to continue to encourage the public to really partake in the census because it's very important to the city. So any other ideas you might have, please let us know.
Will we promote, will we, the awareness be as the flyers, consistent updates? Because I know a lot of our residents are wanting to know about the census because of the population and what would be able to come to Livingston if we showed our actual numbers. So again, having everybody participate, having the door-to-door or however, I know when she made her presentation, she did have that, and I don't know what that looks like under our social distancing guidelines, but to physically account for residents here in Livingston.
Yeah. As you might recall, she came about 3 times here, made a presentation trying to establish a complete count committee in this community. Didn't quite get there. However, we did provide her with that she can use any of our platforms, whether it's the social media platforms, the utility bills, office space, conference room, chambers to facilitate any meetings and stuff. And so they can, these flyers or some type of social media communications specifically for Livingston, so that we can keep pushing this thing out and get more people to participate.
Thank you.
Councilor, any questions for Mr. Ramirez? If not, thank you. Mr. Aguilar, council comments?
Nothing to report.
Councilmember Tang, anything to report?
Yes, I got something for, supervisor, as I said, they're laying off people. I actually went to the Merced mosquito abatement, and we are going to be hiring on one position on Friday. So the people that they're laying off in the county might want to try with the mosquito abatement. That's it.
What is the position coming up?
They're going to post it this Friday. I think she's the second one in charge under the manager.
Okay.
I have to find out more information.
Supervisor listening, so.
But they'll be posting it this Friday.
Supervisor. Okay. Anything else, sir?
No, that'll be it.
Okay. Councilwoman Batista?
Yes. I just wanted to have everybody in our council chambers that are able to see. I have brought in our city logo and have adopted, myself, have placed the national motto on it. So if you're here in the council chambers, you are seeing it. Our national motto is "In God We Trust," and I'd like to present this to our council chamber, have it here on the dais, and to let people know that I want to introduce it. I'm hoping that our council welcomes and that our city welcomes this feeling of unity when we recite it in our pledge and when we move forward in our times. I know that bringing us together, unifying us as a city, helps us to make decisions. And I know everyone is here with some of those thoughts that we want to do right. I'm not wanting to preach or anything, morals on anybody, but again, adopting our national motto, "In God We Trust." So to ask, well, it's kind of late, but letting the council know that I'd like your support on officially adopting our logo with a motto. Not changing anything, but just have something here in our council chambers where everybody meets and makes our decisions. So if I don't know how that's legal, if they want to jump in on that, or if there's any issues in regards to that, how that would be handled. But again, it is our national motto. It's been accepted by many councils throughout the United States. It was something when I went down to the conference. I don't know where I went, but I went down south somewhere. Thank you. The League of California Cities. And I went to a presentation where a councilwoman from Bakersfield had introduced us. And I thought it was a great idea. Again, this is me thinking, and I'm bringing it to you tonight. And if there are any members out here, I have also created a magnet for your car. If you would like one, come see me. I don't have many, so quantities are limited, but I do have them available as a gift to you and your support for this. So thank you for that. Also, I wanted to ask, and for VFW, we have had our meetings. We do have a chicken dinner coming up in lieu of the hamburger night, the chicken dinner coming up. Thank you for putting that on Facebook, Becky. But we also have some awards, 3 awards that I'd like to present to some students. So whenever there is a possibility of presenting those awards to the students at next meeting, thank you so much. I also can't read my handwriting. Oh, I did attend a planning commission meeting, the last one that we had. And there was something that I had thought maybe had gone through them, but it is actually our council that it goes through. When we're talking our new economic development, new projects coming in, we do have the one that is in discussion over there by Gallo. So what I wanted to present and what I've asked is that when we come to start naming the streets, that we think and we ask on behalf of our veterans and those that are named on the memorial. I do know that we have Greenwood by Walnut, but also incorporating all of the veterans and those included on the memorial throughout the streets in that new development that will be coming up. And again, I'd like to ask that of the council if they would put that on however the planning goes. Yeah.
Anything else? Okay. We'll continue with Tuesday on our next council meeting. We will have a formal resolution adopting Embattled Trust, as you said it. We'll bring up our formal vote. And also, the folks who want to present to the students, please get with Mr. Ramirez. We'll make sure that it's on your presentation at our next council meeting. Okay, anything else? And on the name scheme, I remember, when you get to my age, I think you forget some things after a while. Maybe people have younger members. Didn't we at one time bring up this discussion of name scheme naming at one time? I believe the city had something that we adopted, but I'm not sure what it is right now, but we did do something, and veterans was one of the suggestions made. But that was done at one time, so we could definitely look that up. And leave it up next meeting for the discussion as well, okay? I remember we did something like that. Okay. Okay, and then Mayor Pro Tem and Garcia, anything to report?
I don't have anything to report at this time.
Okay, thank you. And
One moment, folks. Mayor's call dropped off. 1 moment.
Sama. Hey, continuing with my reports, I don't have a whole lot to report other than saying that due to cost-cutting measures and other changes, there'll be some slight changes to our meetings beginning in July. We will have our attorney available for us 1 meeting a month. However, at this time, we will continue to have 2 meetings a month. So most of our presentations, non-controversial items that don't require any legal opinions, along with staff reports, will be on the first meeting of the month. On the second meeting of the month, there'll be no presentations or there'll be no staff reports on the second meeting. But we will move more heavily into our other items that require legal representation or questions or items that require a different type of attention. So those meetings will be changed effective the first meeting of July. However, citizens' comments will be available at both meetings. That will be always available. And council comments, everything else will be there. And city manager will still give updates at each meeting. So there'll be some minor changes. If somebody has any questions on what I'm proposing, please get hold of me any way you want, or any council member. I'm sure we'll look at that, or always contact the city. Other than that, I don't have anything else to report. Then we'll move on to awards, presentation, and proclamations, and Oil Aguilar. You have a presentation for us, sir? Go ahead, please. Can somebody give him a phone? There.
All right, everyone can hear me, right? Good evening. Yes. Thanks for having me. And my name is Juan Aguilar. I am very proud of my community. I'm proud of Livingston. Thank you so much for everything I've done today, taking the restrictions, social distancing, doing a great job with that. And I just want to present to you a little thing that I've been working on. It's not a little thing, but it's a large thing that I've been doing. Recently, I've been working on Livingston probably for a couple months, almost a year now, and doing a beautification project throughout our downtown, possibly just all around in Livingston. And one of the things that popped up to consider are the resident setup. The purpose of this is and issue diversity is very, I'm very proud of it. I believe that we are very diverse here in our community, and one way for me to show this is through art. So, little intro, I did the mural at the museum, and I have other works around that as well. And the ideas are to basically create a larger than life setup that would be strategically planned around our town. And these are inspired by another artist somewhere in Salinas, California, named John Stern. I believe I say his last name is Cerny. And he is famous for doing larger than life setups, probably from 12 feet to 20 feet tall. And we want to do the same thing here in town. At first, it was basically kind of, my ideas were revolving around our community and what we do here as like as occupation. But it ended up starting to translate to, instead of like what we do as down who we are in our culture and in our community. So this one is the one CVS, and the idea was to create images of people who work in the field, like, if you imagine something like, what do Hispanics do in Livingston? It's very stereotypical. So I decided to kind of push to a different direction with,
Lawrence Jones.
Proud of what our culture is and what we do in our community here in Livingston. So this is one of the ideas that I'm really submitted out to our community. And I'm still continuing to work on other ideas as well. I want to have people look at me and be proud. I don't want people to say, hey, why don't beauty in all of our cultures and show that pride through our town. This is a mock-up that I was working on, which would represent the Yamaro Colony, which is part of the history here in Livingston. I think a lot of time to do studies, research in the history of Livingston, because I want to provide that information to our community. I don't want it to just be lost in the past. And this is, the man that founded the Yamato colony. His name is Kyotaru Abiko, and he basically was an immigrant that started a newspaper or articles in San Francisco and ended up helping his community to find jobs and resources, because it was very tough back then to kind of, especially where it was all something that they could do. He ended up using his newspaper to reach masses to help out his community, and then he eventually came to Livingston and got some property and was able to provide homes and jobs for his community. And this is something that I want to showcase to our town as a mock-up, just an idea. And from there, just create more that would be a representation of Livingston and just to show our culture and history. Here's another example of one for the Latino community. And these are examples of the artists from Salinas. These are just some of the things some of the ideas that we can implement around town. We can do so much with these, and I believe it would help kind of get us out more, be taking pictures, showing our, like, the importance of what art can do in the community. And they don't have to be just huge cutouts. It could be in sections, and we can put them in strategic locations as well. Like I said, I'm also trying to push for community murals, or just talk to businesses, local businesses here that are interested in providing their walls and supplies to do something to add color to our community, to our town. This is another example of just murals, stuff like that. And I just think it right there. But it's one of those things that I want to connect with my town to provide my services in order to showcase that diversity. So one thing that I would love to do is just to have people contact me, think of ideas, strategic ideas of what we can do with art in our community, to mentor the youth close to art until I was in college. And I want to meet with others to idea of what I can represent or showcase in these mountains. Basically be a conduit for my town and for my residents. Because I would love to, see a Train Allow mural mock-up or larger than life, or maybe a mural for our veterans here in town, just showcasing who we are, like a ghost town, and just have people drive by and leave Livingston and go to places in Sherlock, definitely, just because it's exciting over there. I feel like we definitely have a lot of amazing things here in town, and we can start to grow from that. Do I have any questions?
Council, any questions? Go ahead, please.
Really appreciate your art and how you've, you hear me?
Yeah.
How you've brought your ideas to Livingston. Again, I can appreciate it, and I appreciate this presentation, which gives us a better understanding of how you've wanted to present it to the city of Livingston. So I'm glad that you had this opportunity to present this tonight, and so that our community knows that what is forthcoming. If I may suggest, and again, you and I have been in conversation, and you're welcome. And I believe we've already talked to Mr. Dennis Wells about the VFW Hall, where you can display a mock-up, and just want to be able to know where you are with that, because we welcome the idea over at the VFW Hall. Some of the suggestions as well as Representative Livingston is our Filipino community. Not that I'm Filipino or anything, but Filipino community also. We do have, and I forget, in Portuguese community that has made their early presence here in Livingston. So again, my question are we making a personal contact? Are we reaching out to you? Are we reaching out to the Arts Commission? Who do we contact to give you some of the ideas, or maybe just to throw and bounce off some of the things that we hear from the community as to what represents Livingston as a whole?
Yeah, so I would love the community to reach out to the art committee, because that's the first thing that we should focus on, having the, funnel through the art committee these ideas, so then we can brainstorm and proceed from there.
And you may or may not know, as we move forward with this, so that our community is also aware, how are you funded, or how does that work with that? So what do we do in order to have your artwork here in Livingston?
Let me go ahead and chime in real quick here. Yeah, I'll chime in real quick. So the first part of your comments, Councilwoman Bautista, is very, very, very welcome. Strength here in this community. There's many of the different ethnic backgrounds that we have here that makes us so great. So even the German Mennonite community, the Filipino community, all those have been discussed, and the artists and the commission will be reaching out to you guys. So it's not just a random photograph, but that it actually has input from, that diverse community that's out there. So and so again, diversity is our strength. So that's going to be incorporated, because that's what's going to bring people in. That's what's going to bring buses to our community and people to come out, take photographs, and enjoy a day out here. As far as funding, our funding is very limited. So up until now, we've been able to scrounge a little bit of money here and there, and we have a little bit of budget under the Parks and Recreation budget. So how much are we going to set aside for art is something that we're going to discuss as part of our budget process that's up and coming. Again, we're very short and limited. However, we have been reaching out to different business owners, and then just people in general, to see if they want to donate, or if they can adopt, even if the artwork is going to be on their own building, which we welcome that, because we don't want to have just 1 or 2 murals. We want to have 30 murals. So I know that there's interest, and we talked to even the temples. We talked to other organizations to see if they want to sponsor and commission something on their own, so you get community input and feedback. And of course, he's one of our local artists. However, there's no opposition in somebody commissioning artwork and bringing another artist. We would like to have this continue, because I think it's going to really make us a unique city, and again, why not celebrate our diversity?
Any other questions?
Excellent job. Obviously, the projects you've been involved in, make the city look good, and it's progress in our art district we've been talking about for some time. So just keep up the good work. It looks great. I know it's difficult with our financial situation. The cutouts are, could be pricey. But I think if we reach out to nonprofits or other groups in the community and apply for even grants and stuff like that, we could be successful and get some more art up. So good job.
Thank you. Yeah, that's one thing that we've been trying to do too. I've been trying to look at grants in California that can supply some funds for our town. And it is tough. Sometimes you don't get an email back, and you're just wondering what's going on. And one of the things that I've seen in my community is that people are willing to donate, and I really appreciate that. And when it's local, like I want to help as much as I can. To me, I'm just happy doing finally something that I wake up and I'm doing something I love, and I'm grateful for that. I'm blessed.
Alana, I need to this as well.
And I just want to keep on going, even if it's voluntary. Like I'm willing to put some time and stuff like that for the right cause. I don't know what else to say. If there's any other questions that I can answer, you can always contact Parks and Rec for my contact information. You can find me on Instagram, Gamut92, Gamut_92, Facebook, Joel Aguilar, or you could look at my Facebook page, Joel Aguilar Arte, or my website is joelaguilarte.com. So go ahead and write to me. My email's there as well, too, so please contact me, reach out, and
Are you hungry or no?
What?
Folks on the phone can mute the phone, please.
Hold on a second. Hey, everybody, please check your mics. You're broadcasting citywide. I understand someone's hungry, but please do mute your mics.
Okay, thank you. So one other comment just to follow up on. Well, by the way, we appreciate you. We love the work that you do, and we look forward to continuing to work with you. As it relates to grants, the governor and a few months ago actually appointed a Central Valley person on the State Arts Commission. So I'm sure that that's going to be very beneficial. So yes, we are actively looking for grant opportunities.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. Mr. Murray, you have a question? I think your mic is off.
Hi, I'm sorry. Jose Moran, Livingston, California. And just for the public to know, and maybe some businesses that might be interested, do you have an idea more or less the budgets that they need to look at and to consider one of those murals or maybe around town? So just the public can have a better idea.
So you're asking for like a ballpark on how much something would cost like that?
Yes.
Just like the cutout or?
Like, so let's say that a business is interested. They need to provide two things, your labor cost plus the material that need to be used to be able to have the mural in their place or business.
Gotcha. So yes, I'm an independent contractor, so you can hire me in that way. We can negotiate prices. I love to negotiate with my locals. So I'm very open to those kind of things. When it comes to walls, it depends on ideas, the concept, and the size of the wall. I mean, if you want like 100 faces on a wall, then that's a lot of work. If you want, am I on me? Everyone can hear me, right? Okay. So it all depends on the concept and the size of the wall that I'm working with. For example, if somebody just wants me to do a mural with a big hello, I'm not going to hit them with a crazy number. I know my worth, and I know what value goes into art. Sometimes it's crazy. Sometimes it's fair. But with my locals, I want to be fair. There's no point in me trying to shoot for some crazy number for the benefit of me cashing in. It's about what I'm putting, or what we're putting in our community. What kind of footprint we're leaving behind, because art is the door to showing culture, history, etc. When it comes to cutouts, that's a whole other idea, a whole other project. Because I do have to talk to another company about the size that I cut, the material that I'm cutting, and that's pretty much it. My renderings, my mock-ups, a whole other price too. But it's not something crazy, something doable. But yeah, if any business owners or nonprofits are interested, I'm here for you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, move on to next item, public hearing. This is a proceeding under the Landscaping and Lighting Act of 1972, California Street Highways Code 22500, for the approval of levy assessments for the citywide consolidated landscaping maintenance assessment issue number 1, me assessments for fiscal year 2021. Mr. Ramirez? Okay. Susanna, are you online?
Yes, I'm here.
Can you go ahead and give us a quick presentation, please?
Yes, good evening. My name is Susanna Hernandez. I am a project manager here at Wildan Financial Services, and I have joined the meeting to assist staff in presenting the fiscal year 2021 citywide landscaping maintenance assessment district number 1 and answer any questions. Staff is requesting the approval of the resolution ordering the continued operation of the consolidated assessment district and ordering the levy and collection of assessments for fiscal year 2021. The district is authorized pursuant to the Landscaping and Lighting Act of 1972 of the California Streets and Highways Code and Article 13D of the California Constitution. For fiscal year 2021, approximately 3,443 parcels throughout the city will be subject to the district's landscaping and lighting assessments at the city's approval.
Susanna?
Yes?
Just let us know when you want to go to the next slide, okay?
Okay. The total expected revenue. You can stay at the cover.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The total expected revenue from the assessment is approximately $693,000 to be used to maintain authorized improvements that provide a special benefit to the properties within each zone of the district. And for the benefit of the public, I have prepared a short presentation regarding the district and its background. So now you could go to the slide after the cover page. Just for the benefit of the public, to give background on this type of district, it is a 1972 Act landscaping and lighting district. And this type of district is utilized by local government agencies such as Livingston. It's very common throughout the state of California, and it's used to pay for landscaping, lighting, and other improvements and services located within public areas. It is a type of benefit assessment that is based on the concept of assessing only properties that benefit from the improvements financed. You could go to the next slide, please. The types of improvements that can be paid for with the 1972 Landscaping and Lighting District include, but are not limited to, the maintenance of landscaping. That includes fountains, statues, also lights, general lights, traffic lights, parks, including recreational and playground and court equipment, graffiti removal that benefit the properties in each zone, and public restrooms within the parks. Next slide, please. The annual charge for the landscaping and lighting district zones is based on the cost and the benefit that parcels receive from the improvements. These assessments will be ongoing as long as the services are provided. Next slide, please. And just to give you some differentiation between the district that's before you, the Landscaping and Lighting Assessment District, and a citywide special tax. The current Landscaping and Lighting District was formed with the approval of the original owner, which was the developer, to finance direct costs that specifically benefit properties within each zone. Costs within each zone are charged only to properties that directly benefit from the improvements provided within each respective zone. And revenues within each zone are used only for improvements within each respective zone. Next slide. A typical citywide general election of the county. This can be very costly and depends on how much the county wants to charge. There is a set schedule that usually requires a 2-year advance planning. The election requires a 2/3 approval of registered voters within the entire city
regardless of whether their properties are located where the improvements are to be maintained. And all costs are shared, regardless of whether or not the properties benefit from the improvements. The creation of this type of citywide district could yield results where, while some parcels rates may decrease, others may increase compared to the currently approved rates that are within the current landscaping and lighting district zone. Next slide, please. The landscaping and lighting district of the city contains 26 benefit zones and provides for maintenance and servicing and operating of landscape improvements, park maintenance, street light maintenance, and graffiti removal. The improvements maintained and the level of maintenance does vary depending on the zone. Next slide, please. This is a diagram showing the various zones within the city. They were formed as development came in throughout the city at different points in time. Next slide, please. Each year, the LMD costs, the district costs, are projected for each zone to arrive at a total budget amount for each zone. The assessment rate is determined for each zone by dividing the zone's cost by the zone's total equivalent dwelling units. For example, the total cost for a zone divided by the number of properties within that zone will yield an assessment rate dollar amount per parcel. Next slide, please. Each year, the LMD costs are projected for each zone based on the time and materials that are needed for each particular area to arrive at a budget for each zone. The total budget amount cannot exceed the maximum approved amount. And just to give you some background, next slide, on how the districts are formed. To form a district, the developer approaches the city of its desire to construct new developments within the city. The new development will require landscaping and lighting, and in some cases parks, which the developer installs as part of the construction of the new development. Annual maintenance on part of the city for such improvements will be required after the developer constructs and sells all the properties. So the city initiates proceedings to form the landscaping and lighting district to finance the required annual maintenance of the improvements. City staff works with the developers and consultants to prepare original budgets for each zone based on the maintenance costs. Next slide. As I said previously, there are 26 zones within the consolidated landscaping and lighting district of the city of Livingston. Older zones that were formed did not contain a CPI provision to increase the rate, which caused a shortage of funds and lower levels of maintenance in those particular areas. Newer districts, on the other hand, do contain a CPI inflator to allow the city to increase the assessment as needed each year to mitigate increasing costs due to inflation. Developer would sign a ballot to approve the annual maintenance of improvements at the rate determined based on the budget and the number of properties to be built for the proposed development. The assessment engineer prepares the engineer's report as required by the 1972 Act legislation, and that report describes the improvements and properties to be levied according to the benefit received. Next slide, please. After the preparation of the engineer's report, council holds a public hearing, approves the engineer's report, and the levy of annual assessments. The continued maintenance of improvements is funded by the annual assessments. Annual proceedings are required to continue the district. These annual proceedings include the preparation of the annual engineer's report, the approval of resolutions, and a public hearing which is scheduled for today. Next slide, please. Just to give you an example of some of the zones within the district, there's 4 on that slide. Annually, staff reviews and analyzes the maintenance needs of each zone in conjunction with the funds on hand to arrive at the net cost to be evenly distributed among the parcels within each zone. So the cost is divided by the number of properties to arrive at an assessment amount, and that assessment amount per property is compared to the maximum allowed and cannot exceed the maximum allowed rate. Next slide. So the next steps before you are for council to approve the resolution approving the engineer's report and authorizing the assessments to be placed on the fiscal year 2021 property tax roll at the same rate as last year. Next slide. That concludes our presentation on the landscaping and lighting district number 1, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, this is a public hearing. So at this time, does the public wish to ask any questions or have comments? Please come forward. And if you're on the phone, please state your name and address. Please state your name and address.
Rodrigo Espinoza, 1870 Sun Valley. Just a question, I guess, for legal. This is in regards to the, I guess, the landscaping fee. Can residents that pay into these landscaping zones potentially sue the city or the city council for not providing the services that they were benefiting from? If a new homeowner purchases a house that he assumed would be receiving the services he anticipated when he purchased the property, but now he's not going to be benefiting from the service or those services that he wants to pay for. And also, would a council member be in conflict of interest from voting to remove the fees because that person does not want to pay the fee, but others in his own, other residents in his own, they want to pay the fee and want the benefits of those services? So that's just a question, or I don't know. I know that probably council, the attorney cannot probably not answer since maybe I'll just put it as a comment. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else?
Good evening, council, public. My name is Jose Moran, 945 Parkview Drive in Livingston, California. This has been a conversation that I've had with different people in the community in regards to how they want to see how they want to see their parks, whether or not they live close by. I know that often I used to go out to the complex to take the kids and play basketball over there, but I live on the other side of town. But as a resident, I still always wanted to see that complex in really top condition, or other kids that wanted to use that complex to play any sports. I wanted to make sure that complex is in good condition for them to be running, playing soccer, or whatever sport. And although, now I live on the other side of town, I live close to a small park, and there's a basketball court. Now my kids are all grown up, and now they don't play any sports, or at least not there. So, per se, we don't use that park anymore, the amenities. But I still like the way it looks. If I want to have a really nice house, I need to pay to be able to keep it up. If I don't care about it, then the weeds are going to be grown up. So it is going to cost, and I understand that concept. Although my kids or me personally, I don't use most of the parks anymore, but I am willing to pay, my share to be able to have that park be available for other kids in the community or for other members in the community. So if we don't keep up those parks in good condition, that might devalue my properties or my property that is near that park. So whenever I want to sell it, it might also affect, the buyers that will want to buy my property. So there's different things that we need to look at when we make our decisions, and it's not for the benefit of me personally or my family, but for the benefit of the community and the other kids in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? We can translate for you. Oh, good, we'll translate.
He's asking for to translate, but now we have Mr. Aguilar.
Mr. Ramirez? Go ahead.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es vivo en la 771 Avenue, en Livingston, California.
¿Qué es la dirección? Dígale, ¿no?
771, sí, Livingston.
Ok.
Soy el tío del Club Juego de Livingston. Lo que
Dice coach, vamos, para que no se pierda nada. Dices un poquito, luego yo digo un poquito. Su primer nombre se llama Rigo, ¿y se apellida? Okay. His name is Rigo Fierro, and he lives at 771 Old Avenue, and he's the coach of the Fuego. De Livingston Fuego. He would like, he's asking council and the public, or he's communicated to the public that he would like the restrooms at the parks open.
Could people get muted, please?
Okay, so basically saying he has about 60 youth that are out at the Max Foster complex, and so with the restrooms being open, that would really help out a lot.
También hay muchachos de básquetbol y hay otros que estamos practicando también y somos como arriba de 100, estamos a diario y sin ganas.
He says that there's about 100 people out there, not just soccer, but also basketball and other activities, and so having the restrooms open would certainly be very beneficial. Okay? Yes. Gracias.
Although that wasn't more of a citizen comment, but we'll allow it. So, any other comments from the public or questions? If no one's coming forward, the public portion is now closed. Council, any questions? Mr. Aguilar, any questions?
Just some comments in general. I understand there was a difficult discussion last time that this was brought up. I understand the concerns of that were brought up last time. I believe further discussion in the future when talking about this or coming up when the initial discussions come up in regards to the zones and fees and all that should occur, further discussion. But I believe we do need to, just considering everything, the consequences of not passing this item, and I took everybody's opinion in consideration. I think we should follow through and pass it.
Thank you. Councilmember Kang?
Yes. Yeah, can you guys hear me? I got a few questions.
Yes.
First one was for the statement for Mr. Supervisor Rodrigo. He made a statement saying that if any council member has personal interest, I just want to let him know that I own 4 properties in Livingston. 3 of them are in zones that they have no CPI. So I would technically pay more money if everybody was equal. Yes, one house will save money, but my other 3 residents, I'll be paying more. And so there's no interest in that. And my second thing is for city is, we have a Harvest, County Road or County Glen, where they're paying $52.64 a year, or Almond Glen, $81.14. I own a house on that street. Compared to Kishi Lane, which is $846 a year. Are those two zones getting different treatment? Are the lighting on Kishi turning on an hour before? They're getting the same service. So out of those 24 zones, 12 of the zones are now getting CPI. So I believe it's not fair for the rest of the houses. The other zones who carry over, paying for $846 the highest to compare to $52 the lowest. So is there any way we could put a cap on it? And again, to Mr. Supervisor, I will lose money in this deal because I will pay more on 3 houses and put a cap on 1 house. So there's no interest in. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Does somebody have their, somebody can turn off your mics? I'm ready. Thank you very much. Okay, Councilman Batista, any comments? Any comments?
Yes, I have a comment.
Mayor Pro Tem. Negative from the Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
Mayor, are you trying to address me? We got people talking over me.
Yeah. I'm not sure who else is trying to come in. The public portion is being closed.
No, for the Mayor Pro
ahead,
Tem,
Mayor
I
Pro
don't
Tem.
have anything at this time.
Hey, good call. This is
Okay, thank you very much.
Can I still add on to it?
Councilmember Kang, please.
Yes.
Councilmember Eva wish to say something. I'm going to call on you, okay? Okay, let me call him, Mr. Eva, I'm going to call you, okay?
Mr. Mayor, can you hear me?
Good. Hold on, Councilman Kang. Hold on. Let me get the mic.
Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Let him go. Councilman Kang, go ahead.
Okay, I got a question. You know how Jose Moran and the supervisor said they like to pay for the service they're getting. Is there any way we could have all the residents, because there's zone 13, zone 13B, 5B, zone 15, 16, 17, 22, 14, 21, 20, 18, 23, and 24. Is there any way we could put this on the ballot and have all the residents decide instead of 4 people, us 4 people compared to the whole residents? Is there any way we could cap it or stop it and let the residents decide? If the majority wants it, well, guess what? We'll keep it. If majority don't want it, we'll cap it off. Can we get legal opinion on that?
In order for that to happen, Suzanne, can you answer that question?
That could be something that may be in the provisions of the 1972 Act by petition, but that's more of a legal question.
Well, Jose, do you have answers to that, or can you find out? I mean, what's the process of? I don't mind knocking on every door in those houses and ask those residents, because they're the ones that telling me that they don't want the increase.
If you look at the screen, in order to change anything other than what we're doing today, you would have to put on a ballot that requires 2/3 of the approval of the registered voters to make any changes.
2/3 of the whole towns, or 2/3 of just the people that are affected by it?
The whole town. No, not registered voters. Yeah, 2/3 of the registered voters.
Okay, so what do I have to do? Do I have to go out there myself and get a petition signed? Because at this point, I'm willing to do that, because I don't think it's fair for half of the town to pay. So how do you justify $52 compared to $846 for the same service? same lighting. I mean, I could take the city manager on a ride along at 6 o'clock, and he could maybe point out which lights are turned off, which ones are getting better service, and it's the same service. If Jose Moran and the supervisor want to pay for it, they're more than welcome. Nobody's stopping them from paying their share.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Green. Okay, Mr. Aguilar?
Just a quick question. I know it was mentioned that we're not increasing from last year's fee. And then I know in the last meeting, we eliminated or we stopped the CPI.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing here, right? We're stopping the CPI.
So this is the presentation we have here before us, and correct me if I'm wrong, Suzanne, is without the CPI. Is that correct? This does
That's
not
correct.
include any CPI, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, just so everybody understands, there is no increase. It's the same as last year, last year. So there is no increase at this time. Just so everybody understands that, okay?
Okay, just wanted to make sure because I know, considering the times and the economy, and that was something I wanted to make sure that it wasn't included.
Okay. Council, any other comments? Seeing none, I will move to the motion at this time. Does anybody wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
You can read the top.
I make motion to adopt the resolution of the City Council of the City of Livingston amending and or approving the modified engineer's report for the citywide consolidated landscape maintenance assessment district number 1 and the levy and collection of annual assessments within such district for fiscal year 2021 and confirming diagrams assessments pursuant of the provisions of Part 2, Division 15 of the California Streets and Highways Code and as provided by Article I don't know my Roman numerals of the California Constitution.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilwoman Batista. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilwoman Batista, second by Councilmember Aguilar. May I have roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguilar?
Yes.
Councilmember King?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Garcia?
No.
Mayor Samra?
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 3-2.
Mayor Pro Tem, was your vote in the affirm or the negative? Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yes. So it's 4-1. Okay, just so you know, may I have more time, please?
Yes. Councilmember Baptista?
Yes.
Councilmember Aguilar?
Yes.
Councilmember King?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Garcia?
No.
Mayor Samra?
Yes.
Motion
Okay,
approved
motion
by
passes 3-2.
2.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hey, I got a question real quick. I don't know if I'm allowed to ask a question right now, so Paul. This is for the for the city attorney. Is it conflict of interest for any council member that does not have CPI on their parcels, or they're raising on the rest of the town?
And Councilmember, we could definitely take a look at that. The issues usually with these types of landscape and lighting district where they cover a lot of the town is that a lot of people are covered in the same way. So we just look at the different properties involved. But given the issues that were raised, I'll go ahead and contact you and we could take a look at it. But usually with these, it covers so much of the city itself that everybody votes.
Thank you, sir.
Good. Thank you very much. Move on to citizens' comments. This section of the agenda allows the members of the public to address the city council on items that are not otherwise on the agenda. Members of the public will recognize the mayor to come forward to the lectern and identify themselves. comments are normally limited to 3 minutes in accordance with the state open meeting law. The rest will be taken by city council meeting. For items which are on the agenda this evening, members of the public will be provided an opportunity to listen to the council each item is up. Does anybody wish to address the city council on citizen comments?
Yes, I would like to.
Council, again, Rodriguez Mendoza. Well, I'd just like to state that in those comments, I never stated any names. I was just saying more of a question to the attorney. I never mentioned any names. Just a question or comment. That's the way I put that question. So I just want to state that for the record. Today I was called by Renee Gutierrez from the ACE train or Amtrak. He stated that they're looking at SB 1838, which I guess I don't know if it was last year or the year before. The state passed a new tax on sugar drinks, but then the governor didn't, he vetoed it, and now they're looking into potentially, because of the pandemic, coming back and repealing that, so that they're trying to raise revenue. So I know that, I don't know, Jose, you were updated on that. So they're looking into maybe having the cities, if the councils across the state or the counties, potentially they can use that and pass that to raise a little bit revenue for, in light of, the sales tax being down and everything else. So I know with tobacco tax and the sugar drinks, I know it's a lot more taxes for everybody to consider, but, the cities and the counties will be low on funds. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else with citizen comments?
Yes, I have something to add.
The citizen comment, go ahead, please identify yourself.
Wapinder King, 657 Calero Court. They had some just questions regarding the parks. I understand that there's not going to be an increase on it, but if there's any surplus left in those parks, is there any possible way to use that money into those parks as adding basketball courts and so forth? My second question is, if we were to fence off the basins from the parks, how much money would we save in labor and water alone, along with equipment? And then my next set of questions is for recreation. Since I remember council and the mayor had asked recreation to do a survey to see what surrounding cities were paying for their sports and everything like that. I'm just wondering if that's been done, and when we'll be expecting that presentation to council and to the public. And since the city recreation department has been kind of put on freeze because of this COVID-19, I was just wondering, is it still under budget or is it over budget regarding the recreation at this time? And then the next question is, the city of Livingston paying for outside soccer leagues to perform in the city of Livingston or to use our soccer fields? Are we paying for their referees? Because again, that goes into our budget at the end of the day, paying into it. And when we are catering to outside leagues, are we benefiting any money, or are we just giving and kind of taking the loss on our own part? And is the city or planning on raising any fees regarding recreation? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ramirez? Mr. Kang, Wapinder, we have all your questions. We'll get everything written up for you and hand it to you in writing because there's too many to answer right off the bat.
No,
is that okay
and
with
I
you?
appreciate that. Yeah, if possible, can I get a date of when those will be answered? I kind of would rather have them answered in public, so
we'll have
them
them for you
on
at the next
record
meeting.
and other people can reply to them as well if they have any questions.
Yeah, we'll have them for you at the next meeting, okay?
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anybody else with citizen comment? If not, then citizen comment portion is now over. Moving on to consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar are considered routine and non-controversial, be enacted by one vote unless a separate action is requested by the city manager or city council member. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a a member of the city council, city manager requested that specific item be removed. And I did have a request from Councilman Batista for item number 6, with some clarification. Mr. Lemert, I believe you have something on the line, but you had I think we have the attorney, receivership attorney Amanda Jones. Are you on the phone line?
I'm on the phone.
Yes. Can we have some Councilwoman Batista has some questions? So if you could answer her questions,
My question is just to present some clarity to our citizens in regards to how the resolution and the public hearing, the process of how that took place, because I believe there is a little bit of confusion of how I can explain it, and I would need some help, and that's why I asked for this item to be presented so that our public understands what type of public hearing took place in order for this to go through our consent agenda.
Yes. So there was an enforcement case that was brought against the property owner in order to have some code violations remedied. As part of that process, the city incurred fees and costs and was ultimately able to get the owner to rehabilitate the property, and quite a bit of resources to do that. So as part of our enforcement case, one of the options the city has is to seek those costs from the property. So the property is the nuisance and you recover the costs against the property. So in this case, when the property owners went to court, they had a right and they had a hearing before court. They objected to the city's recovery of its fees and costs. The court ultimately split the money in half. So the city did not get all of the fees and costs awarded by the court. It got approximately 50% of them. So the 50% was already ordered by the court. There is a judgment on the property for that amount. So what is before the city council today is just to confirm that this amount should be recorded as a special assessment against the property. In that way, the city would have an opportunity to recover at least 50% of its fees and costs. There is also an option to spread out as opposed to one lump sum. The Livingston Municipal Code does allow for up to 5 years those payments to be spread out in installment payments.
Thank you for clarifying that. But I also have another concern as regards to how the public hearing took place. It's stated in our packet here that it was set at the council chambers. However, that was not discussed during a council meeting. And I believe the public would like to know how they weren't afforded an opportunity to make any comments to this public hearing.
They were afforded an opportunity to make comments at this hearing, yes. They were notified of the hearing date and time well in advance, and they are entitled to be present and to state whatever objections they may have.
Yeah, Amanda, I think what Councilwoman Batista is asking is that the public hearing date was scheduled for the 2nd, but that didn't take place. So you sent out a written communication to the property owners to schedule it for the 16th.
Correct, yes.
So there was no public hearing that took place on the 2nd?
No, there was no public hearing. Originally it was scheduled. Right, that's correct. So it was originally scheduled for that date. But tonight is the public hearing.
Thank you.
Councilman, any other questions? Okay. Yeah. Is there any other questions?
There are no comments. regarding it?
Right, since nobody came forward, then we'll move on to consent calendar, consent agenda items. Okay, this item number 3, this is the approval of the warrant register dated June 11, 2020. Approval of minutes of the meeting held on May 5th, 2020. Resolution authorizing the applications of state, California, and local early action planning LEAP grant program. Resolution confirming the judgment establishing a special assessment on property for unpaid charges. Does anybody wish to make a motion on the consent calendar?
I'll make motion to accept the consent calendar.
I have a motion by Councilmember Aguilar. Do I have a second?
Yes, I'll second it.
Councilmember Kane? May I have roll call, please? This is B2.
Roll call. Councilmember Baptista?
Yes.
Councilmember Aguilar?
Yes.
Councilmember King?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Garcia?
Yes.
Mayor Summer?
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. Item number 7, this is a resolution of City Council of City of Livingston approving the order directing business and operation to adopt, implement state COVID-19 safety protocols, including industry-specific guidelines as established with state, and requiring all individuals within the city to wear face coverings before entering any indoor facilities besides their residence. Any enclosed open space while outdoors when the person is unable to maintain a 6-foot distance from the other person at a time. And Mr. Ramirez, sir.
Yes, Mayor and Council and public. Of course, we understand the stay-at-home order from the state. We see the statistics going on, just not only in our neighboring counties, but across the state and across the nation. And there has been quite a bit of discussion around the face mask and whether the face mask itself helps or doesn't help in spreading of the virus. And so our face mask basically sunset on the 31st of May. And so we're bringing it back to council for consideration. My personal recommendation is that we continue the face mask requirements, the face coverings, that is, in all of the essential businesses here in our community. Again, to curb the spread of the germs of this virus, and not have again. Bottom line is we want to help our community, and this is one way we can do it. Because keep in mind that we have some major employers here in our community, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with, even though it's not within the city limits, you probably heard about the Houston Nut Company. It was all over the news. They had about 8 different workers there. I'm not sure whether they reside within the city of Livingston or not. But anything that we can do and err on the side of caution, that's what I would recommend to council. But it's council's prerogative in terms of how long. My recommendation is a month, but whatever council would like to do is your prerogative. So with that, I'll turn it over to the mayor.
Well, let me try this again. Anyway, what I was saying was, based on social media and discussions, it seems like a lot of people are for it and there are others against it. And from my conversation with folks, it's about around 60 to 63% for and others in the opposition. But I'm sure a lot of it depends on which council member has contact with which group. So I'm sure it changes. And so I am going to open this up for public comment this time. And then after that, council can make his comments and then we'll make a decision. So at this item is now open to the public. Does anybody wish to come forward?
Hi, good evening, Council. Jose Moran, 945 Parkview Drive, Livingston, California. I think that Livingston has been doing a great job in trying to do our best to keep our community safe. And because we have been leaders in this endeavor with this virus, it's one of the main reasons of why we kind of been ahead of the game and been a little bit safer, I believe. Just recently, as we see some states and counties opening up, just 2 to 3 weeks later, now we're seeing the number of cases spiking up or doubling in faster times. And now, for instance, just this morning, or actually yesterday, the state of Arizona is one of them, which 80% of their hospital capacity is, it's getting maxed out. The same for Texas and Florida and so on. My personal recommendation will be that we can consider this to be restated for 2 to 3 months, and then in a month or two, if we see that we don't need to have it, it's easier to go back and just stop the requirements. It's always more difficult to kind of go 1 month and then come back again and go through this again. It's just easier to always go back. That would be my recommendation. And then I also did just an independent survey with the residents in Livingston, and out of 97 participants, 67 of them were in favor of continuing with the requirements. 32 were not in favor, and one of them wasn't sure. So that would be my recommendation for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to make a comment on this item? Anybody on the phone that wish to make a comment? Seeing nobody come forward, Councilwoman Batista.
I just want to say that outstanding job in coping and in having to prepare themselves and continuing with guidelines that were presented. However, I'm in a position where I look at what, and again, Ms. Moran, thank you for providing a survey. Again, that only presented 100 citizens in our community based on what their recommendations were. But in my own feeling, I take a look of what the county has presented, what we have to take in as our state requires, and what our county public health has recommended. And again, those are recommendations in regards to the face mask. And what I have a feeling for is that when we are out there in the public, and again, the order is stay-at-home order, and then to go out for our essentials. But as we slowly open up, we know that things are occurring. More tests are available. I haven't looked at the current, and I should have. I looked at the current numbers and statistics in regards to what's going on in Merced County. But what is happening in Livingston, again, it poses a concern, yet mandating a face mask, in my personal opinion, I believe that we can do this safely. All our businesses have been given their guidelines. They have been practicing it for their employees. We've been smart about it. Again, things that the data shows from Merced County that most of the cases are being brought into Livingston, not particularly some of the residents. So again, taking a look at the facts and waiting on the science to catch up for us is a concern. But as we are presently aware, our order has lifted. So for the past weeks or so, we've been doing, citizens have been doing a job that they feel protects them. And again, there is a lot of pressure. I know in the beginning it's a lot of social pressure, and that's falling on another spectrum of concerns of how our citizens are reacting to that, how they're pushing back to that, and it leads to many more areas. So I thank Livingston for doing the job that we are doing, but I believe that if we stick to the guidelines of our social distancing, going out when only necessary, doesn't. Personally, I am sitting here, again, I'm calling myself out. I am here without a mask, and again, that's my personal, not just because I'm speaking, but I see that everybody is within their guidelines to practice what they are doing for their best health concerns and what they need to do for their families. So that is my personal comment. I believe we can do this without a mandatory imposition on our citizens. If they would like to wear a mask entering into a facility, then they protect themselves. And again, I'm compassionate towards others. I do carry either a handkerchief or a mouth covering. Again, if I feel the need that I'm healthy. And again, we can get on to another conversation about, well, you don't know you're healthy. So again, that's for another time. But tonight's resolution does ask that we keep going forward. We have been, and I don't know, there's lots of confusion in regards to this. Statistics, science, it all comes into play here. I want what's best for the community. I will protect my family, I protect myself, and again, there will be judgments, there will be other calls, but again, we're adults here, and I believe that we can do this in the best interest of our community. So that's my comment.
Thank you. Councilmember Kang? Hello? Councilmember Kang?
I have no comment.
No comment? Councilmember Regla?
I've been talking to a lot of people, and I think they get, conflicted or different ideas, different stories, or different perspectives. In regards to my responsibility as a council member and trying to, keep the community safety in mind and best interest of everybody, I lean more towards, continuing with the resolution over the order. But I believe it should be a fluid or a ongoing discussion. I don't think it should be lasted a certain amount of time or, months or whatever, 1 month or 3 months. I think it should be discussed next council meeting and see where the numbers are at. There's been 84 new cases in the past 4 days in the county of Merced, including facility close by to us. And even besides our order, the state has certain restrictions in regards to indoor facilities and public facilities. So I would like to continue with it, but also continue the conversation and discussion every council meeting to monitor the numbers and all of that. And I think that's possible to have a side conversation or have something in the agenda to just touch bases real quick and see where we're at.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't agree with
it being like stating that it's necessary to wear a mask in the city of Livingston. Obviously, I have people coming up to me with pros and cons about this. I would probably recommend saying that we highly recommend you wear a mask while visiting the city of Livingston or the businesses. So I think that should be someone's choice. I mean, if they want to get sick, I mean, that's on them. But however, like I said, I would strongly recommend and not make it necessary for people to come into Livingston to wear a mask. So that's my say on it.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody know, does the county require masks?
I don't think so.
So I think what the mayor is asking is the county opening for businesses to reopen.
We cannot hear the city manager.
I'm sorry?
Sorry. Can you hear me okay now?
You have some echo, but go ahead.
Okay. So with regard to the reopening of the different businesses, the county health order has to have a stipulation and guidelines. So, for instance, certain businesses, it says, we, if I remember correctly, require face masks, and others highly recommend. So what's going to end up happening is, I think, even more confusion, in my opinion, because you're going to have businesses that have to have face masks, and then others that won't. So I don't know if the legal might want to jump in there and share a little bit about that.
Yes, and the reality is that it is up to the council to decide where the council wants to go with this. There are several regulations coming down. The city manager is correct. You have the state regulations, then you have the county health officer regulations. So the county, every business that opens up just needs to pay attention, obviously, to all the regulations. I think that the intent here of the city manager and doing this, and also please recognize that it does do, the order wasn't imposed. Like last time, I know that the city manager, acting in his capacity as the director of disaster council, has the power under the municipal code to impose the order. This time around, the city manager wanted to bring it to the council for consideration. The order is also different than the first order that was done, whereas the businesses are just basically told to follow the county health officers' guidelines and the state guidelines, the state requirements, and I think that was definitely brought up by Councilmember Bautista. The order, it just kept the portion where all individuals are asked when entering into a building. That's actually all persons are required to wear a face covering before entering any indoor facility besides their residence, any enclosed open space, or while outdoors when the person is unable to maintain a 6-foot distance from another person at all times. That's really the only thing that's really changing from all the other requirements that businesses have. That is up to the council, but every business should be looking at all the state and county guidelines. It's up to the council whether you want to take it another step and just make it more uniform.
Okay, thank you.
Legal. Quick question for legal. So in terms of hypothetical, if we have, if we're saying no face mask, no mandatory face mask, face coverings in the city, and let's just say Rancho San Miguel, you have somebody that wants to walk in with no face mask, okay, and the business itself, let's just say, is under the health order of the county, requires a face mask. The dynamics, I don't understand how the dynamics are going to work.
I don't understand the question.
Okay, so let me rephrase it. So, for instance, at the So we know that under the reopening of the salons and the barbershops, they're required to have face masks. Okay. So how would we tell a resident who wants to go in and say, hey, there's no required face masks in town, it's not mandatory. So I don't know.
They're still required to follow the guidelines from the state and from the county. Just because the city itself doesn't have that order doesn't mean that the county orders and the state orders don't apply to those types of businesses. So they still need to do it.
Yeah, and that's why I'm communicating to the council and the public that they still have to wear face masks. The issue that I see, or the problem that I see, is they're going to say, well, wait a minute, there's no requirement. The city's saying it's not required. But then the business owner is going to say, well, under the state it is, and so if you have to come in, you're going to have to wear it. So as long as everybody knows that that's the dynamics, we're good.
So then why do we have
Mr.
to?
Edler? Go ahead. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor Pro Tem? Yeah, I thought he said something.
Hello?
Okay.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, go
So
ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
So then just for the city manager, then why are we requiring people to have it in the city if it's already going to be there? I mean, for each business.
Well,
by the state, why do we have to force it onto city?
Very good question, Mayor Pro Tem. Number one, there's not uniformity, so not all businesses, depending on the business type, you are required to have a face mask covering, a face covering or not. And so that's number one. Number two, because we want to make sure that we do everything that we can to protect the public's health. So what has been being communicated is because it's being used, face masks are being used for different businesses, means that it does help. So again, what we're trying to bring is uniformity, trying to bring more safety to our community, and trying to prevent a little bit of the confusion that it's going to cause when people are asked whether there's a mandatory face covering in Livingston or not anymore. But it's up to the prerogative of the council.
So what are the consequences if someone doesn't have a face mask in the city? So is there any
consequences? Okay. Well, as it relates to, we do have an administrative citation opportunity component in place. We have not issued anybody any citations, and our plan is not to issue anybody any citations. What we're trying to do is to get everybody to think about the health of others, not just yours, but the health of others. And so that's why I'm recommending that we at least continue this for another period of time, because it does help. But again, that's I'm very my.
Yeah, I got one more last thing on this. Like, I agree with Councilmember Aguilar to I just say, I mean, leave it in place as it is then, and then just bring it back up at each council meeting and see how it goes from there. I mean, it doesn't have to be in depth as we're having it today, but just a brief overview on it.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Aguilar, you have some further comments?
No, I was just a simple comment about just the same thing we're talking about, that there are other requirements. I think this one goes a little bit further, right? It's legal.
Okay, someone's listening to music now.
I think legal. I think it goes a little further, right? I think it talks about even outside when you're not having the social distancing component required to wear a mask.
That is correct, Councilmember. So again, just to quickly recap, businesses still need to follow the orders from the state and from the county. I think that the intent here from the city manager was to bring something that provided a little more, uniformity where everybody knows that they have to wear a mask when they go inside a building that's not their home. But you are right, it also applies to when a person's while outdoors, when a person is unable to maintain a 6-foot distance from another person at all times. So when social distancing is not, you're not able to have social distancing outside.
So I don't know. So I know some people have a problem or concern with the word required, especially when it's outdoors. I mean, we could come to a middle ground and say highly recommended outdoors, but required indoors in accordance with county policy and state policy.
Yes. Yeah, I think there's something that can be a middle ground somewhere. To me, thank you. Anything else? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Okay, to me, yesterday I actually take care of some business. I had to go to the court. Not only did they make sure that I had a mask on, they made me go back and get my mask, but they also took my temperature. So this is a county building, or Superior Court actually, and I'm sure everybody knows that. So these are all over the place. What I like to get is, because I know there's no consistency between state and the county, and it's a little different. It varies a lot. And for the good and the bad, however you want to look at it, depending on what side of the spectrum you're on, business started to open up, and there's going to be a little bit of a change. We're not sure exactly how this is going to affect all the businesses and how the whole thing's going to be as far as new cases and everything. What I like to propose to the council, and I hope you guys can support this, is I'd like to get a little more clarification on what the county health order is exactly. And because, we know what the state, we can go look at the state and the county. And then what I like to do is to temporarily extend this to July 5th. So we get a little clarification. One thing that we'll do is also with businesses opening up and everything, it'll kind of give us a better idea of what's actually happening. So I strongly ask that we continue the mask order until, when's our next meeting? I ask that we continue it until 7th of July where we have it. Then we can it will not continue beyond that unless the council votes for it. So I would like to ask at least get a little better idea and what the county and state is going to do by then. We should have better answers because state is also making some more changes too this month, I believe. So I would like to ask that the council would be willing to support that until July 7th.
What would it look like if we let it run under its expiration date, under its natural sunset, and ask people to, those businesses that required that in order for them to open, they had to meet those guidelines and for them to protect themselves. And the businesses under the 2.5, the barbershops and salons, again, they can't maintain that 6-foot distance. So yes, I can understand why that is a required mandate for them, for those businesses and for the customers that are in that proximity of their hairstylist. The other businesses that we have kept open and opened a little bit slowly, we for those of us who've been keeping up with it, opened up slowly, looked at the guidelines, prepared themselves. The time that the city of Livingston allowed them to take the opportunity to prepare everybody to enter. So again, we're looking at that as our businesses. We trust our businesses that they're keeping under their guidelines, taking every precaution that they need to protect themselves, and following by the guidelines that were handed to them by the state and by our county. Again, I'm looking at what county has suggested to us and that I strongly recommend. So what if we looked at that and said, okay, right now our resolution has ended, our ordinance has expired, our residents, those that need to protect themselves and those that have to stay at home, that, again, they're doing what they need to do. If they're sick, they are staying home. We're trusting that. But also looking and saying that, okay, some people out there is confusion, there's mass confusion, even for us to be having this discussion, the understanding and looking at what is to come. We don't know that yet. Looking at the numbers for Livingston, again, the data, I don't have it before me, but looking at those numbers, what if we went those 2 weeks, looked at the numbers that the county has come up to see where Livingston is at that time, and then at that council meeting, if there has been a spike, if there's a change, if we've remained at the level that we have been for the past weeks, then we move forward with that. If there's a dramatic change, then yes, hey, put this down and say, look, you know, we tried going without the mask, making it a requirement for everybody that's outside, a requirement for everybody coming into the building. If you can't go by the business's X mark and their arrows and the distancing, you know, the business has their right to refuse their service to you. But if we're practicing those and we're doing what we need to do to protect ourselves and others, keeping that distance, washing our hands, doing everything that we've been told since COVID, I want to just be able to suggest that what if we just keep it as it expired, look at the data again, see what's happening, and then at the next council meeting, I mean, if it starts to occur before then, hey, then yes, you know, if we see those changes, because again, I looking at posts on Facebook and going to having those provided to us by county. Sergeant Fong does a great job of getting that information, weekly updates, even daily updates that county has for us. We're looking at those numbers and we're seeing a change that's not really significant. So if we went these remaining weeks without, see what happens. But if there's a spike, put that in order. Say, hey, we tried it without the face mask, but this is really, you know, this is happening in Livingston. We need to put this back on the table, and we need to go forth and make this a requirement again.
Okay, thank you. But for me, I think it's easier to keep it and then remove it later than to reimpose it, because people get used to it and then they start questioning it. Wait a minute, why? You know, we're going to get into that. It's easier to keep it going and then look at the data on the 7th and make a final decision, because this will give us better numbers now that things have opened up somewhat. So I still strongly ask that we continue this until July 7th. And also I will request a information before that from the county health to see where we're at, because when they say that we have total number of cases in each city or whatever, those are somewhat misleading as well. For example, the big spike that we saw in Livingston wasn't within the city, it was within the zip code of 95634. So we do need to have a little better understanding, and I do have a conference meeting with the health department, county, and the mayors on Friday. I will request that we have some information for the council for the following meeting, a little better of data of how many active cases we really have, and I'll try to bring that up for our next meeting. But until then, I really ask that we continue this until July 7th. But I do believe Mr. Stranger, you wanted to have another comment to make?
Yeah, just real quick, in regards to like letting it expire today and looking at it in a couple of weeks, I think that besides people not getting used to it or whatever, I think it creates a problem where if we want to go back, there's a delay in the symptoms and the testing, all of that. So there's a danger there. I think there should still be some kind of something in place. I know, like we talked about earlier, the wording required to maybe highly recommended, strongly encouraged, strongly recommended would be better for me, in my opinion. And ultimately, like, it's impossible to enforce. I've seen some stores, people walk in without it, and it's impossible to enforce. And ultimately, it's everybody's responsibility to be responsible and take care of each other. We could, set the guidelines, and hopefully people do follow it, and be considerate of the whole community. So that would be my suggestion, to just change the wording, highly recommended, and follow the county, strongly encouraged, and follow the guidelines for businesses.
To the July 7th meeting? Is that a motion, sir? I have a motion by Councilmember. Okay.
I have something before we do the motion.
Go ahead, Mr. Khan, go ahead.
Yeah, is that for me?
The Councilmember want to comment?
That's the Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Councilmember Aguilar about the wording. I think that's the biggest thing right now in the wording. And also, we may have to look at, like the city manager that you could possibly cite it. I think that needs to come out of there too, because in reality, we don't have the personnel or who's going to stay at a certain business and start citing people. I don't think our law enforcement has the ability and the personnel to be out there writing citations, because they'll be busy all day. So I think that has to come out of there too, because we're really not going to do it. We're saying we're going to do it, but we're not going to follow through with that.
So if I may recommend, Mayor, it seems as though that changing the order to highly recommend and also taking out the actual citations, what it does, it's really more of kind of just encouraging folks to keep wearing your face mask. And also, regarding following the law, they still need to follow the county and state. Would it be, instead of changing the order to just make it, highly encouraging or whatever words, would it make sense to continue the item and just bring back more information regarding the county, what the county requires? Things may also change in 2 weeks. If there is a spike, word is that a lot of counties are going to be looking at requiring the face masks. But we could do whatever the council wants, obviously. If the council wants to continue, technically the order is not in place right now. It did sunset. The first order did sunset at the end of last month. But again, instead of just renewing it, I think the city manager wanted to bring it to the council to have this exact dialogue amongst the council to see if you wanted to reinstate it or not. We could do whatever the council wants. If we want to change it, take out the penalties and put highly.
Yeah, this is for the Mayor Pro Tem. That's what I would agree with you, sir, on just the wording of highly recommending and taking out the fines or whatnot, the citation part. That's just my opinion.
Okay. Is that your opinion, or is that a motion?
Well, I could do that as a motion.
Okay. Before we call for a second,
I just want to ask, with Mr. Ramirez being our director of the Disaster Council, what position or where does that put him in a council vote if this were to follow through with a highly recommended outcome? Is there more that you can add to it as being the director of our Disaster Council?
So maybe I could help. So pursuant to your ordinance and pursuant to the Emergency Act, the reality is that position does have certain powers under the municipal code. So if the council decided to change it, that's absolutely the council's prerogative. The council can do that. That would be the order. Let's say that if 2 days from now, 3 days from now, there's a huge spike where in his capacity, the city manager in his capacity as director of disaster council, sees it that it's for the best for the health and safety of the residents to impose a mask covering requirements. He could definitely do that under his authority, but then he would have to come back to council as soon as possible for the council to ratify that order. And the council at that point would have the option of saying no and ending the order at that point. So that's kind of the power. I think that right now, barring if the council went this direction and making it just encouraging and not mandatory, I do think that the city manager and I kind of have direction as to how the council wants to pursue, barring an event of a high spike where everybody's moving. I think we would be coming back to the council for the council to make the next decision.
Any other questions? I do have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem. Do I have a second?
I second it.
A second by Councilmember Aguilar. May I have roll call, please?
Roll call. Councilmember Baptista?
Yes.
Councilmember Aguilar?
Yes.
Councilmember King?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Garcia?
Yes.
Mayor Samra?
Yes.
Motion
if I may-
approved by a vote of 5-0.
Sorry, if I may, just for clarification, we'll be looking at the order. We'll be removing the mandatory sections, or at least changing them. And the order that is section 3 of the order that has the requirement, we'll still leave the sections that require businesses to actually follow state and county provisions, since that is the law. So that'll stay in there. It's really, when you look at it, it's really section 3 and then the penalty section towards the end, and section 9, violations of this order is a crime and may also be pursued as an administrative fine. We'll go ahead and also revise that. Now, I took it that the violations actually were just for the face covering, right? So so that's already taken care of by making it a recommendation beforehand. Do we still? And I'm sorry to bring this up now, but we would still leave that section because not following the state or county is still a violation. So we would leave the violation portion of it because it would only apply to the businesses.
Okay, thank you. And moving on to item number 8, this is a resolution ratifying the continued existence of the local emergency in the city of Livingston due to COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Ramirez?
So, Mr. Mayor and Council, of course, this ties directly to item number 7. Again, we are still in a pandemic, so my recommendation is that we continue to say that there is still emergency and that we need to follow all the protocols necessary to keep everybody safe.
Okay, thank you. This item is open to the public. Since nobody's coming forward, this item is now closed to the public. Council discussion, Councilmember Batista? Councilmember Hanna? Councilmember Kang, any discussion?
Nope, nothing.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Negative.
Okay, I would also like to continue this item, keep it in effect until the July 7th meeting. I'm sorry, repeat that?
So for this one, Mayor.
Okay, hold on a second. Go ahead.
Just making a quick comment before continuing this. All this resolution does is just declare that it ratifies your earlier, your original emergency proclamation. It doesn't impose any orders, but it says, because of your municipal code and because we also told the council that we were going to come periodically to the council to revisit whether we were still in a pandemic or whether this is still an emergency. It doesn't impose any orders.
Okay. Okay. Any further discussion, council? My bad, my mistake. If not, I will entertain a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion to ratify the continuing existence of a local emergency in the city of Livingston due to COVID-19 pandemic.
I have a motion by Councilmember Aguilar. Do I have a second?
Yes, I'll second it.
I will second that. I'm sorry?
Yes, I'll second it, Gaudendy.
Okay, second by Councilmember Kane. May I have roll call, please?
Roll call. Councilmember Baptista? Yes. Councilmember Aguilar?
Yes.
Councilmember Kane?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Garcia?
Yes.
Mayor Summer?
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 5-0.
Administrative Director regarding a disposition of surplus property, Mr. Merrick.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council. So this is a result of some direction that was provided at a previous council meeting. And so we felt that the best way to approach this, rather than having to go through a big extensive process, was just to put together an administrative directive regarding the disposition of surplus property. So what was asked of staff was, whenever we dispose of any property that we had asking for the surplus, to actually include in there how and to who we're going to be disposing of the property. So that's what you have before you.
It is open to the public. Does anybody wish to comment? If not, it is closed to public. Council discussion. Mr. Kane, any discussion?
No.
Councilmember Aguilar? Okay, Mayor Pro Tem?
Negative.
Okay, I don't have any comment at this time either. We're going to give Councilman Batista a couple of minutes. Do you have any? It's okay. Do you have any comment at this time? Okay, we have no comment. Does anybody wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion approving an administrative directive regarding the disposition of surplus property.
I have a motion by Councilmember Aguilar. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
A second by Mayor Pro Tem. May I have roll call, please?
Roll call. Councilmember Baptista? Yes. Councilmember Aguilar?
Yes.
Councilmember Kane?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Garcia?
Yes.
Mayor Summer?
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 5-0.
Okay, this is a resolution supporting the expansion of the ultimate Corridor Express Ace train to Merced County and making case for train stop in downtown Livingston. Mr. Ramirez.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council. So this item, as you might recall, it's been in the works for a few years. The ACE train, the Ultimate Corridor Express train, is going to make its way to Merced, but they're only going to choose one of two cities in terms of where the platform is going to take place, and that's Atwater and Livingston. So over the course of several years, we've been doing everything that we can in the city of Livingston to make our case on why the ACE train should fit the city of Livingston. So we've actually pledged funding for a transit center / platform for the train. We've done a lot of downtown improvements in consideration of the ACE train. The 35-acre transit-oriented development that's currently in place also is pivoting towards the ACE train. There's a lot of benefits if we were able to land the ACE train in Livingston, because there's going to be a number of people that from Delhi, Belico, and different areas that are going to make their way to our downtown, carpool from there, take the commuter train all the way up to San Jose or to Stockton. And that'll be a big boost for our local economy. In addition to that, we've reached out to several of our big employers in the area. We think that there's going to be a lot of people who work in Livingston who are outside the area that will take the train, especially for Foster Farms, because the distance between where the train's at and Foster Farms is very, very relatively close. So I think there's a lot of benefits all the way around. And again, this resolution basically is communicating to everybody that we're interested, that we're doing a number of different things, and that what we're doing only makes sense, and that we're in the best position to be selected. And so I strongly recommend council adopt this resolution.
Thank you. This item is now open to the public. Anybody wish to discuss? Seeing nobody come forward, it is now closed to the public. Council, any comments?
Obviously, yeah, quick comment, Juan Aguilar. Obviously, we want to land that, that is train here in town. I think it'll be a great opportunity for the city of Livingston. And, obviously, I'm in great support of this. I know it's open to the public coming up.
We'll be meeting on the 25th.
That's right. So I encourage everybody who's able to tune in to do it. It'll be very important, and that's it.
Councilmember Kang, any comments?
No comment.
Councilmember Batista?
No comment.
Deputy Chen?
A negative. No comment.
Thank you. And for me, I highly, highly encourage that we adopt it. There'll be nothing better for us than to have a train stop here. Just so you know, for all these minor fans, if it stops here, you can get on the train, and when you step off of it, you're in the San Francisco 49ers parking lot. There's no $100 parking fee. You just get on the train and you're there. So otherwise, you have to drive your car through that longer and then park there and then go there. So it's much better for us to do right here. So I strongly encourage everybody to vote for it. So at this time, yeah, we do have minor fans in this city. So anyway, at this time, I will entertain the motion.
I'll make a motion, resolution supporting the expansion of the Altamont Corridor Express, or ACE, train to Merced County, and making the case for trains.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Aguilar. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Councilwoman Batista. May I have vote, please? Roll call.
Roll call, Councilmember Baptista?
Yes.
Councilmember Aguilar?
Yes.
Councilmember Kane?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Garcia?
Yes.
Mayor Summer?
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 5-0.
All right. This is the resolution during the continuing 2021 fiscal year budget authorizing the city manager to continue making required expenditures to meet current or immediate financial obligations until 2021 fiscal year budget is adopted. Mr. Baines?
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
You want to take it? You want me to?
Go ahead. You can just do it from there. That's fine. That's okay. Hey, please join us.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, Vanessa Portillo, Finance Director. The item that you have in front of you, it is for us to have an extension to present to you the budget 2020-2021. And while we bring this budget to your, for you to review and approve, we are asking that you give us authorization to continue to meet our financial liabilities until we come and present the budget to you.
Thank you. This item is open to the public. Does anybody wish to come forward? If not, then it is now closed to public. Council, any discussion? If not, I will entertain a motion. Okay, I'll make the motion to adopt resolution considering the 2021 fiscal year budget and authorize the city manager to continue making required expenditures to meet our current our financial obligations until 2020-21 fiscal year's budget is adopted. I have motion by the board. Do you have a second?
I second that.
Second, Councilman Aguilar. May I have roll call, please?
Roll call. Councilmember Baptista?
Yes.
Councilmember Aguilar?
Yes.
Councilmember King?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Garcia?
Yes.
Mayor Samra?
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 5-0.
Okay, council, any further business? If not, we are in adjournment. Thank you very much.